एक चीज तो समझ आए कि जब डेवलपर ऑडियंस है तो कोई ऐसा भी चाहिए जो डेवलपर को समझ सकता है, डेवलपर को हेल्प कर सकता है, डेवलपर के साथ काम कर सकता है ना, और डेवलपर के लिए कंटेंट बना सकता है, उनके मैसेजेस अक्रॉस कर सकता है, which and basically all of this, and the moment this comes together, all of these things, that's where you get this field called developer relations, which bridges the gap between a developer and a product or a company.
So, hi everyone, and welcome Aditya on the Summer Show podcast. So, yeah, I'm just recording this podcast after 6 months. So, last recorded I've done in August. So, you are the first guest of this year, and yeah, hoping to make this episode interesting, informative, and inspiring for lots of young students out there. So, yeah. So Aditya, let's get started with your introduction. So can you give a short brief about yourself? Ki who is Aditya? And because most of the students know you, but very fraction of the students don't know ki kaun hai Aditya. Yeah.
Totally all right. Totally all right. First of all, thank you so much for having me over for this episode. Definitely very happy to join in. Hi everyone. I am Aditya Oberai. I currently do developer advocacy for appwrite, which is an open source backend as a service platform. So it's like a Firebase alternative essentially. And I'm also a final year student, just about to graduate in end of April actually. So just a month more. And but aside from that, I've been around communities for the last 2-3 years or so now. Mostly active with Microsoft Student Program, the Google Developer Student Club that we have at Amity. As a Major League Hacking coach, helping out with hackathons, and more recently as a Twilio champion as well. So I've been around communities for a bit, and I thoroughly enjoy helping out with communities, helping out people, and just honestly just having fun with everyone.
Nice. Well, you have utilized your college life very good. Yeah. And yeah, also let's get started with our first question. Like, let's get
Sure.
back to the 3 to 4 year, like in 2018 or 2019, when you get started with your MIT college. So, what sort
Mhm.
of aim or things you have in your mind कि हाँ मेरे को college जाती ये सब चीजें करने हैं मेरे को, या you have already prepared कि हाँ I have to join communities, or have you ever aware about Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador? So क्या plannings थे during your first year or first or second year? Yeah.
यार सच्ची बोलूं, मतलब I knew I wanted to do something in tech. पहले लगता था साइबर सिक्योरिटी करेंगे, कूल लगता था, सुना हुआ था, कैली लिनक्स पे थोड़ा खेला भी था, सोशल इंजीनियरिंग टूल किट के साथ, तो लगा था ये अच्छा है, इस पे हाथ मार के देखते हैं. I had access to computers for a very long time, so I had fortunately got some sense of exposure, and I'd been programming through school as well. ICSE, ISC था, तो I'd been doing Java. So अपने को था यार कि CSE करना है, टेक करना है. अब उसमें आगे नहीं पता था लेकिन क्या क्या दुनिया होगी.
So have
So
you prepared for
while
have you prepared for JEE
honestly
also, JEE exams or JEE
सच्ची
main?
बोलूं इतना ज्यादा नहीं किया था. Like I was in a residential school in Dehradun. I was at the Doon school, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time there. But that was one thing that never was somehow big on my list. I was like, I'll do college, I'll do a crash course, and whatever happens, happens. I was okay about that because for me, it's just I never had the craving of an IIT, and I know that could probably be separate from a lot of the crowd, but that was just me. Right. I was okay with private. I did not know what exactly I wanted. I had a few targets in mind. Kind of got some of that, kind of didn't. But that was okay for me. But one thing I knew was that I want to do CS after this. That was something I was sure about, that wherever I go, computer science he karna hai. So that's kind of what I came into college with. I will choose my stream over my college. So for that matter, I had a few options, but this is what I came to. And I think that way Amity was a decent option. It still is. It's a growing brand, growing department, growing opportunities. That's always a perk in the long run, right? So I kind of started off with that whole thing.
Okay.
the other thing was, because I was from a residential school and we were used to so much stuff outside of class, I was like, मैं सिर्फ क्लास बैठ के पढ़ने वाला तो नहीं हूँ.
Yeah.
Nothing against studious kids, please. That's a very good thing. But for me, I wanted to do something. Like I was like, I need some co-curricular in my life. Otherwise, I'll go crazy, because that was a habit I'd had for the last 6 years. Right? जब स्कूल से वो आदत होती है, तो it's just like you need that, right? अब किसी के लिए कोई sports है, किसी के लिए कोई co-curricular है. मैं घुस गया हमारे कथ क्लब्स एंड हमारे डिपार्टमेंट के टेक फेस्ट के साथ, because वो क्लब्स ही ऑर्गेनाइज कर रहे थे, which also incidentally had our first 24-hour hackathon, which was pretty cool. Because like that was my first exposure to this world. I got in through the most fun team of all. मैंने कहा स्पॉन्सरशिप काम करते हैं, because obviously वहाँ कंपटीशन कम था, डरावना ज्यादा होता है. बट चलो वहां से ना, सच्ची बोलो, वहां जाके ना लोगों से बात करना सीख गए, नेटवर्किंग सीख गए. that stuff I kind of built there unknowingly, right? We kind of built up those. During that tech fest and hackathon, we actually had a GitHub campus expert. We had two of them here, उस time के campus experts, and one of them, Rishabh Bansal, he had brought GC का एक standee and of this other thing called MSP, or Microsoft Student Partner. For anyone who doesn't have context, the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador that you hear today was formerly known as the Microsoft Student Partner Program.
Yeah.
तो तब I got to know कि दो ऐसी चीजें closer to the end of first year, second sem में. तो मैंने कहा यार एंड ईयर आ रहा है, सेकंड साल ईयर के लिए अप्लाई करते हैं. Who knows what happens? मेरे को तब पता है, सच्ची बोलूं, कम्युनिटीज की नॉलेज नहीं थी, सेंस नहीं थी. मैंने कहा यार रेज्यूमे पे अच्छा लगेगा तो करके देख लेते हैं, ऑनेस्टली. बट I got in. I didn't get GC, which unfortunately never happened for me ever. That's one thing that still kind of is there, but I've finally grown beyond that. But MSP happened, and that's kind of where I got access to communities, start of second year, which was probably the best thing that could have happened to me throughout my academic career. Because for me, communities opened up this entirely new world, right? I had no idea the kind of stuff people were meeting to talk about and just relax and enjoy. And I never knew there was a world like this. But fortunately, MSP kind of got me a step into a few of these rooms and a few of these discussions. And I just kept engaging. I wasn't even like I want to take charge or anything, because I never knew what that meant, right? But I just kept engaging and trying and learning and sharing, and engaging and trying and learning and sharing. And somehow through all of this, I kept growing. My personal brand kept growing, and it's not something that I realized. So few months in, the India MSP Summit happened, which was freaking amazing. Yeah. And a lot of people knew me, which I never realized would have been the case. But that's what happens, right? I don't think a lot of us who've grown may have realized at one point, at least at the start. Maybe we recognize today. Some might not. I do. But there was a time when I did not realize the impact these activities had on both your own growth as well as your outward brand. And that's kind of just what I kept taking and stepping on and growing. And that's how I brought my first opportunities and my internships and so on. Like every single internship I've had has been because of someone I worked with through in the community. My first was literally a community internship, and the second one was I just returned to the same company. And my dev internship in third year was because of someone who I met, who I volunteered under in one of these initiatives. So it's had just that it's had a wonderful impact on my personal journey, to be honest.
Nice, man. मतलब you learn through your experience, और हर level में कोई ना कोई मिलता है मतलब. Yeah, that's nice.
That's what I did, honestly. Yeah, kept taking each moment. For me, like as we went remote or anything, it's just I kept taking up every opportunity that I felt I could, until I hit my burnout points, and I hit those. And that's when I learned how to say no to stuff as well. But I didn't leave stuff is the thing. I always had something going for me. I was always participating in something, maybe not everything, but at least something. So there was something that I took back from each of those experiences.
Yeah, that's nice. Even I also got selected for the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador in, I think, 2020 batch. And you are one of the inspiration. Like I don't know about the Microsoft before that. And I just saw your YouTube video about your application process. And then I thought, yaar, mujhe bhi apply karna chahiye.
That video has done well. Honestly, I had no idea it would blow up so much. But the video and that Medium article has really blown up.
Yeah, so I
Like,
just
I
got
don't get it, but it has.
nice. Then I just reach out to you on LinkedIn and then know about the process and finally got selected. पहले FOMO था
Honestly,
कि
the program was very good
या
for me.
पहले I
Like, मैंने
think
तो
that
जितना टेक भी किया है ना,
hmm,
मैं मतलब I'm a .NET dev, I work with Azure. मैंने अपना स्टैक ही वहीं से Microsoft Launch पे हाथ मार के शुरू किया, and then hackathon by hackathon करते
yeah,
गया. But I still love that tech. Like, for people, my friends and all, they all know I'm very Microsoft tech. अब मैं JavaScript सीख रहा हूँ, but
nice.
my core stack has always been C Sharp, .NET, Azure. That's been my thing.
Yeah, that's nice. And yeah, I think moving on to the second part, like you are currently a devRel at appwrite and also a top 100 in devRel influencer. Yeah, I just check it on the LinkedIn and congrats for that. So I just want to
Thank
know
you.
about this devRel field कि क्या होता है क्या devRel, and it's also new for me because I don't heard about it before 1 year, because when I was a Google developer student club lead, so the manager at that position is also a devRel at Google. तो मुझे लगता था कि हाँ, आफ्टर यू गेट सम एक्सपीरियंस इन द टेक फील्ड देन यू कैन अप्लाई फॉर द डेवरल जॉब और एनी कम्युनिटी जॉब. So yeah, you are the best person to explain us कि DevRel होता क्या and how to get selected for this DevRel position. And yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So before I get into what devRel is, let's step back and think about why this is necessary. मैं मतलब वहां से शुरू करूंगा तो story शायद थोड़ी समझ है. It'll
Yeah,
be easier to understand.
sure.
Let's look at these last 2 years and think about how many companies we have today that are catering specifically to developers. एक time था, maybe 5 साल पहले, where most companies you would see were either business, like, it was a business catering to some specific user consumer or just to businesses, right? Matlab, they had a product that a normal user would use or some business would use, but not a lot of those were meant to be built upon. But in these last 2-3 years, that's substantially grown. Reason being, the world is becoming more and more tech enabled today.
Yeah.
That's the fact, right? Because the world is like that, we now have more products that are catered towards developers to build those other products.
Yeah, every
And
product has a tech field. मतलब technology is related to every part of
matlab,
the life.
think
Yeah.
about, like, पता है आज के डेट में इतनी companies हैं which are either primarily catering to developers or are developer first, like MongoDB or Twilio or Elastic. ये सारी हो गई. या फिर are secondarily catering to developers like Microsoft, Amazon, Google, जिनके the primary thing might GCP aside from search and all, and so today we have so many companies which are secondarily catering or primarily catering to developers. So in this point, at this stance, एक चीज तो समझ आए कि जब डेवलपर ऑडियंस है तो कोई ऐसा भी चाहिए जो डेवलपर को समझ सकता है, डेवलपर को हेल्प कर सकता है, डेवलपर के साथ काम कर सकता है ना, और डेवलपर के लिए कंटेंट बना सकता है, उनके मैसेजेस अक्रॉस कर सकता है, which and basically all of this, and the moment this comes together, all of these things, that's where you get this field called developer relations,
Yeah.
which bridges the gap between a developer and a product or a company. That could mean information, inwards and outwards flow. Outwards, maybe social activities hai, blogs hai, content hai. Incoming meaning feedback ho sakta hai, user research ho sakti hai. You could have people who are creating educational content, tutorials, people who are on streams, people who are creating sample apps, people who are debugging and helping people, other developers and communities and otherwise, right? So it became this whole little mix, a nice mix of a lot of different things. And it's for this person, because you're working with developers, you should be able to develop yourself as well, right? Because like that's the problem you're solving. So some sense of developer experience was necessary for most facets of this.
Okay.
Not every facet needs it, right? Like maybe someone who's a developer advocate who's helping a developer is debugging apps might need some dev experience. Someone who's dedicatedly working on communities or managing communities might not need as much. So it kind of varies there, right? And every organization has its own needs on that note. But in most scenarios, someone in this domain would need to be able to, should be a good communicator in text, and vocally, and should be someone who can understand people and build as well. Now, the reason why a lot of people who you see who are often more experienced is because it comes down to how complex some of these products might be, right? Some of these need a good amount of engineering experience for them to be able to understand the product, let alone help someone else, right? Which is why requirements differ. Some organizations still have a good amount of experience requirements. Google का जितना devRel होता है, जो outward their devRel engineers, if you look, often have a 5-year software engineering experience requirement, and the reason for that is because you need someone who's experienced enough with these platforms. Now, that's not necessarily a hard fixed numbers, but you should be skilled enough, and that's what they're looking, right? अब सपोज मैं .NET पे कर रहा हूँ और मैं .NET के लिए किसी को हेल्प करने जाऊँ, अगर मेरे को ही बनाना नहीं आता तो मैं कैसे हेल्प करूंगा? That's the whole reason why experience was required. But and for big tech, most of them still have some of these. In fact, it's not that devRel folks want a thing. Microsoft has had technical evangelists for the last 15-20 years. 15 साल से, 16-17 साल से. But आज की डेट में जो स्टार्टअप्स जितने आ गए, अब the thing is कि you don't have enough people dedicatedly looking at careers in these, right? But companies इतनी बढ़ गई, which is why entry requirements changed. Alternative experiences were considered, right? कोई अगर hackathons में projects build कर रहा है, open source contribute कर रहा है, that is considered valid experience to an extent because you're still building, which is how a lot of younger developers have been growing into this as well. That's why you see that, right? It's not that experienced people aren't valid, but today with younger people, because startups have that demand, there is more demand and a much smaller supply, perception of requirements changes. Right? क्योंकि कुछ चीजें जो सिखा सकते हैं, कुछ चीजें हैं जो innately भी होनी चाहिए, but the bar is definitely becoming a little easier. But that being said, पता है, I don't recommend everyone to choose devRel as a career for sure.
Because reason for that,
हाँ, मैं जब devRel को देखता हूँ ना, for me that isn't a career, that is personally a philosophy. मैंने ये काम इसलिए नहीं शुरू किया कि मेरे को इसमें करियर बनाना था, जब मैंने ये कम्युनिटी में काम शुरू किया तो मेरे को तो devRel नाम का करियर पता भी नहीं था, सच्ची बोलूं, है ना? तब नहीं सोचा था कि भाई ये करना है लाइफ में, वो तो 1.5 साल करने के बाद समझ आया. बट I was working with people in communities, working, I was trying to build on my own, I was trying to work with brands as well. कुछ मैंने अपने तो internships ऐसे करे थे, trying to work on growth activities, खुद से organize कर रहे हैं hackathon, ये सब कर रहे थे, और मेरे को ना अच्छा लग रहा था. I was honestly satisfied with my work. बहुत लोग जो हैं today, a lot of people are kind of rushing into this is because आसपास लोग देख रहे हैं कि ये हो रहा है तो इससे नाम बढ़ जाएगा, है कि नहीं? Socials पे देखते हैं, and it's that's what people don't realize is that isn't the reason why we do it. It's a consequence of what we're doing, right? But it's just that because people don't understand the space, a lot of people are running after this because वो glorious लगता है. But which is why I say कि it's good to step back, because मैं सच्ची बोलूं, जैसे मैंने अपने experiences की बात करूं, aside from anything voluntary I did a community internship, I did a user research internship, I did a software developer internship, which was a total of 9 months of internships. Like 5 महीने मैंने community टाइप और बाकी दोनों 2 महीने. And साथ में I did hackathons, Imagine Cup वगैरह भी किया. I worked in communities, I organized, and after 1.5-2 years of this is when I took a call कि ये करना है. Because अपने free time में करना, voluntarily करना और professionally करने में बहुत फर्क होता है. That's not something a lot of people realize. There's so much more beneath the tip of that iceberg that people don't realize. जो brands के साथ काम करके चीजें समझ आती है, जब community growth perspective है, उसका business impact क्या होता है, जब कोई evaluate करने बैठे तो उसमें क्या मजा आ रहा है, कुछ बहुत चीजें बदल जाती है लोगों के लिए, है ना? To want to do something and to have to do something are two different things, right? जब उसमें फिर आगे एक need का फैक्टर आ जाए और चीजें ना हो रही हो तो बहुत लोग का मोटिवेशन वहीं उठ जाता है. अभी तो बहुत लोग जोश में कर लेते हैं, which is why it needs time, and that's actually half the reason why I recommend कि थोड़ा सा टाइम लगाओ और एक्सपीरियंस थोड़ा सा लो. अब मेरे पास 2-2.5 साल का alternative experience था before I applied to appwrite, which is why that worked out for me, because I was fortunately in a position and I had the right mentorship to be able to take a call whether this was for me or not. There were 2-3 other organizations that I rejected before that because I felt that the roles weren't right for me. But that's not the case for a lot of people who are rushing towards this, right? At least among younger devs. Experience में बहुत फर्क होता है. मैं experience devs के लिए नहीं बोल रहा हूँ, but specifically younger devs के लिए, जो students यहाँ से निकल रहे हैं. It's very necessary to take a step back, think about your own skills, think about where you're creating value and whether you see yourself doing this as a day in day out job, because it takes a toll as well that people don't realize, right? And there's going to be times where you have to do a lot of different activities. It's not that every day I'm sitting कि मैं एक hackathon आज mentor करूंगा, एक session आज लूंगा और मेरा दिन खत्म. ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता, right? There's so much more behind the scenes that's happening. हम research activities कर रहे हैं, feedback कर रहे हैं, heavy amount of content writing, बहुत चीजें चल रही होती हैं. कभी content blogs का होता है, कभी technical होता है, कभी social होता है. There's just so many facets to it, right? जो नहीं realize होते because every company also has different requirements. तो उसको standardize भी नहीं कर सकते.
Yeah.
So it's necessary to take a step back, try your hand at all of these different things, even if it's independently, and then think about whether you want to do all of this as a day in day out job. And if you don't, that's okay, because you don't need to be professionally in devRel to do the thing. You don't need to be professionally there to do devRel. You can still help out people. कितने लोग हैं जो software engineers हैं but help out in communities and all. सब कर रहे हैं ना. It's not a mandate. ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता. But be sure you're in a good position to take that call for yourself at least. Prematurely वो लेना बहुत गलत होता है.
Yeah, that's a good piece of advice. And yeah, मतलब अगर कोई बंदा devRel बन गया तो ऐसा नहीं किया उसके पीछे ही किया, उसने किया तो मेरे को भी करना चाहिए. So yeah, you can learn from your experience and.
नहीं सकते यार. मैं मतलब वही चीज है. तुम ये सोचो.
Just for example, जैसे कि after becoming your devRel, then you will get lots of messages कि हाँ कैसे बनना है devRel, how I can become a devRel position.
भाई कोई roadmap है ही नहीं ना. There's no one common consistent roadmap.
Yeah.
Like मैंने एक set of activities बताई हैं कि इस order में कर रहे हो क्या कर रहे हो ये थोड़ी मैं define कर सकता हूँ किसी के लिए. उसमें से अच्छा क्या लगता है क्या नहीं लगता वो भी define नहीं कर सकता.
Yeah.
क्योंकि every person has their own desires, has their own strengths, has their own weaknesses. There are some places where I do better, some places I don't, right? ऐसा थोड़ी है कि अब like I know there are people in devRel who are far better technically. There are people जहाँ पे मैं कुछ certain fronts पे better होऊंगा, maybe around certain programs या hackathons are an expertise of mine, right? But there are fronts where I'm not going to be great, so I have to make sure that I'm able to cover up on those as well.
Yeah.
And I have to create that balance on a day in day out basis.
That's
like आज की मैं बात करूं, if I think about it, I know I've been doing a lot of social work for one of our releases lately. The last few days I spent trying to contribute an auth adapter to appwrite, and fortunately I have a PR in finally. तो मैंने कहा यार अब लेके थोड़ा कोड करते हैं, because I need that balance, वरना मेरा वो लूज आउट हो जाता है, राइट? वो बैलेंसेस बहुत जरूरी होते हैं और वो खुद से बहुत मेंटेन करना पड़ता है, because तुम्हें अपनी पर्सनल लिमिट्स पता है, तुम्हें अपने पर्सनल स्किल लेवल्स पता है, राइट? And that those decisions need to be taken with a sense of maturity. There needs to be a sense of self-awareness that a lot of us don't achieve. मेरे को पता है एक साल पहले होता तो मेरे को ये नहीं चीजें समझ आ रही होती. एक साल जहाँ पे मेहनत की है, जहाँ जिन लोगों से बात की है, जिनसे सीखे, उसके बाद ही समझ आए ये चीजें, right? So you need to give yourself time so that you're not making a premature decision. काम करते रहो फिर भी, but professionally jump लेना is a very different matter, and I don't recommend everyone to rush into it. ऐसे.
That's a great advice. And would you like to share about the appwrite, like how you get into the appwrite? Is there any kind of interview process compared to any SD intern? So yeah, and I think
I won't compare with SD because it's a different role at the end of the day. So there's a lot of different. There are different evaluation metrics, right? Technical, yes, touch हुआ था, but there was a lot of other stuff. And then appwrite has different requirements than a lot of other companies, and other companies will have different sets. So that's the thing. So I'll give a disclaimer before this that what I went through is not consistent for every single company. वो appwrite के लिए मेरे साथ हुआ था और वो 7 महीने पहले हुआ था. ठीक है. So I kind of found it through a very interesting and fun way. I found it off Twitter. Key role nikla hua hai through a job board that I was following, because once I'd fixed on devRel, I had fortunately got some sense of a network. I was in a few good groups and all and pages, and I came across appwrite along with a few other companies. So at that point, I know I was interviewing and in touch with 3-4 places. And appwrite process was pretty cool because so when I started off with the form and all, one thing that appwrite emphasizes on is your GitHub. उस पे क्या projects हैं, क्या contributions हैं open source क्या, because appwrite is open source, right? So I know they took emphasis on that. Aside from that, there was a statement of purpose and tell one cool thing about you. I got through that, fortunately. I know the GitHub is reviewed because I've later on gone on to help recruit at one point because I was the first devRel on the team. So I know that's something that we emphasize on. After that, the moment my first interview came, it was heavily about getting to know me, my experiences with two members of the team, two engineers. Again, because everyone, there was no other devRel on the team at that point. But that was a very get to know me call, which does say a big thing. appwrite के लिए culture fit is a big point. Like scale ऊपर नीचे सीख लेंगे लोग. Like obviously we have certain minimum requirements, but the stuff we know people will learn. But culture fit is especially very important for us, which I felt worked out well for me because I know there's a lot that I'm trying to learn right now as well, right? After that, first interview happened for me, and we had a tech assessment, which was basically a self-analysis, self-rating, talking about my skills, my different tech skills that, out of a list that they provided and what I'd done in those. After which I had my technical interview, which was thorough tech and devRel. So I know out of that 20 minutes was just talking about tech like APIs and all, and there was stuff on that front. Among devRel, we touched upon content practices, documentation practices, community initiatives, community management, thoughts around devRel, thoughts around metricization. There was a lot we touched upon that way. But that was a thorough devRel and tech interview. And I know it's our interview process that way. It might seem easier because we don't do whiteboarding and all, but for the roles, we are evaluating very thoroughly as well. Because अब जैसे GitHub की बात आती है, like I know कि किस focus से हम उसमें introspect and check करते हैं, and if we don't find stuff there, it's no for us because that's what we're looking for, right? So the metrics and the evaluation points we have, we were very careful about those, which is why we don't have to do stuff like whiteboarding and all for devRel interviews, and I know with engineering interviews at the moment as well. So second interview also had the founder and another engineer, and once that happened, that worked out. Then the third is a founder call where we discuss more about contract and appwrite and me and that sort of stuff. But that's again a final culture check aside from everything else.
Yeah.
So culture is a big point for us. And for tech evaluation, we're looking, of course, that second interview as well as your GitHub, your Twitter, your blog, all of that. We take all of those links beforehand. So we do review those pretty well. Our resume reviews is one of the toughest points to get through because we check each profile manually that way. That's a big thing for us.
Yeah.
So we're not using ATS, just actually manually reviewing.
That's nice. So for a devRel position means you must have a good communication skill or GitHub में profile अच्छी होनी चाहिए, plus you have written lots
GitHub
of
mandate
blogs.
क्या मतलब हमारे लिए था because we're open source, right? So someone who knows how to work with GitHub and is building side projects and contributing, they probably have a better understanding of the ecosystem than someone who might not. But वही चीज अब कल को कोई cloud engineering है उसके लिए कर रहा था तो maybe GitHub would be less focused because it's a different field, right? So it comes down to what role. But for us at least, we want to see how well you understand, how well you relate with and match with open source ideologies as well, because we're open source.
Okay, that's nice. And how is the day-to-day life of a devRel? मतलब कोई time limit होता है कि हाँ मतलब around 9 बजे से start करना है या
like as a full timer, like okay, so it's the same typical. Like full-time hours are typically 40 hours a week or so, right? But with appwrite, because we're remote first and we're distributed across the world, we have the freedom of choosing our own preferred times. So I don't work morning to evening, I work afternoon to night.
Okay.
Because so a part of my team is actually based in the US, so I like to have an overlap there. And then morning I can just do other stuff if that I want, right? So I'm getting the work done anyway. I have an overlap with my team, so I can meet all my team whenever I need to. and communicate with them, and that kind of just works out well for me. So that's how I go about it. But it's the team has freedom. Like some people start again afternoon to evening, some start morning to afternoon or evening, that sort of thing. So it's appwrite gives that flexibility because we're remote first. We can, we're not restricted to specific offices and all. We're about 26 people now across 13 or 14 countries.
Okay.
I'm losing track of the countries, but it's more than 10. So we've got people in Canada and Australia and New Zealand, and it's just you can't have overlaps all the time in the middle, right? It's not possible because someone might be asleep at that time. So that way, fortunately, we have that freedom.
As a student, when you are a CA student and enter into your first year of college, so there are lots of things in the tech field कि क्या क्या सीख सकता हूँ मैं, like तेरा WebD है, Android है, blockchain है, programming करनी है, या there are lots of different things. And plus point है CS के लिए कि बहुत सारे options है, then you can choose anyone and get a perfect on that position. So how we can choose a tech skill, tech stack which correlate with our passion and which help us to get that particular job, because बहुत सारे tech stack हैं, तो कौन सा हम choose कर
बात
सकते हैं?
बताओ, इंटरेस्ट पता है अभी? लाइक सबसे पहली चीज तो होती है कि ये फिगर आउट करो इंटरेस्ट कहाँ आ रहा है.
प्रॉब्लम इज फॉर एग्जांपल फर्स्ट ईयर में पहले मेरा इंटरेस्ट था कि हाँ वेब डी सीखना है, फिर वेब डी से मन पक गया, फिर सोचा कि एंड्रॉइड जंप कर लेता हूँ. सो मतलब फ्लक्चुएट होता रहता है ना.
तो एक बात बोलूं,
आफ्टर या
फर्स्ट ईयर सेकंड ईयर ना हाथ मारते रहो
ओके
until you figure out that one thing where you're really enjoying.
ओके
मैंने थोड़ा सा ब्लॉकचेन के बारे में पढ़ा था, क्रॉस प्लेटफॉर्म ऐप पे भी देखा, बैक एंड वेब पे भी देखा, एंड दैट्स काइंड ऑफ वेयर आई स्टार्ट. मेरे को अच्छा लगा वो. MLs didn't attract me, so I didn't chase that. IoT did not attract me as much, a little bit, so I still have a Raspberry lying around, but that's not because of that. वो तो बस एक hackathon में जीत लिया था, but I experimented a little till I reached a point. मेरे को honestly I kind of got stuck at like मेरे को जहाँ पे मेरे को capture किया was backend and cloud. मेरे को वहाँ interest आया, तो मैं वहाँ रुका थोड़ा और वहाँ पढ़ा. Then I started focusing more towards backend because APIs build करना सब करना, that's a space that caught me. And I did more of that. Right. So try around, experiment a little till you hit that. And honestly, once you know what domain, we've got standard tech stacks, right? It's not like Java पे सीखा तो Python में आगे problem आएगी या Python वाला ignore करेगा, because fundamental skills are the same. Language syntaxes के transfer की बात होती है, right? अब मैं जैसे कर रहा हूँ तो ऐसा थोड़ी है कि मैं दूसरा नहीं कर पाऊंगा. .NET is my primary thing, C# is my primary thing. appwrite का backend PHP में लिखा तब भी adapter एक बहुत प्लेटफॉर्म का है ना, because skills can transfer, syntax तो याद हो जाता है. So it really comes down to figuring out वो interest domain क्या है, and वहां से you can move forward. And अगर कौन सी लैंग्वेज से करने समझ नहीं आ रहा तो try to focus on general standards you might see. राइट, लाइक जैसे बैकएंड का कोई कहता है, मैं कहता हूँ जावा पे हाथ ट्राई कर लो, पाइथन देख लो. फ्रंट एंड कह रहे तो भाई जावास्क्रिप्ट ही है, उसके बाद टाइपस्क्रिप्ट पे ग्रो करो. मतलब ऐसा नहीं कि और चीजों से कर नहीं सकते. बीइंग इन .NET आई नो यार, मतलब ब्लेजर है, यू कैन डू C# से फ्रंट एंड, बट ट्राई JS, दैट्स अ बिग स्टैंडर्ड. वहां से जब फ्रेमवर्क्स पे आओगे, रिएक्ट, व्यू, एंगुलर, एक पे हाथ मारो, अपनी चॉइस का कोई भी कर लो. ऐसा थोड़ी है कि एक अच्छे से आया तो दूसरे पे जंप नहीं कर सकते. मैंने थोड़ी सी है, obviously you need to know documentation, but it's not that you can't pick up those skills, because there are common skills, there are common factors, right? And you can always grow that way, you can always learn more. That's never going to be a big issue as long as you're willing to put in the effort. So it really comes down to that. अब जैसे app dev है तो थोड़ा जावा भी करो, थोड़ा Kotlin भी करो. You can do both. You don't have to choose one of the two. Start करना है तो look at the standards. अब जैसे Kotlin official है, उस पे अच्छा course content है, तो maybe start with that.
Yeah.
You can choose. And if you think there's opportunities in the other thing, spend time learning. It's difficult, but it's doable. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's a great. And वही मतलब टेक्स्टिक लर्न करो, फिर ट्राई टू बिल्ड सम प्रोजेक्ट फ्रॉम दैट टेक्स्ट.
बिल्ड बहुत करो, ये बहुत जरूरी है. अगर डेव पे काम कर रहे हो तो प्लीज डोंट स्टॉप बिल्डिंग. बिल्ड as you learn and learn as you build. मैंने जितना सीखा है maximum build कर करके सीखा है. You need to know how to build. And मतलब वो तभी आता जब practically करोगे, सिर्फ course करके नहीं आता. You need to do it.
Because around most of the students are doing the courses from different websites.
मैं नहीं करता. Like मैं बताऊँ मैं क्या करता हूँ. Like ठीक है. Obviously there's some basic stuff that you have to learn. But after basics are sorted, fundamentals are sorted, I start building. And then जहाँ जरूरत पड़ी docs खोल ली.
Okay.
मना थोड़ी कर रहा कोई docs
So you
खोलने
never
से.
watch videos, मतलब tutorials kind of, yeah, you only just.
I do watch videos. I just prefer written content.
Okay.
But कई जगह है जैसे मैं कोई चीज सीख रहा हूँ उसकी वीडियो ही है तो वीडियो देखनी पड़ेगी. But I like so when I'm learning I prefer written content more than video. तो मैं written courses पढ़ता हूँ. जैसे JS front end का मैं देख रहा था तो मैं free code camp से देख रहा था. है ना, है तो उसका भी written course. बीच में मैंने कई fundamentals के थे ProGate पे देखे थे, which is where I interned. But that's a damn good platform by the way. HTML CSS मैंने वहाँ से सीखा था काफी हद तक. तो it's not like I didn't learn. Course मैंने भी किया, but then I didn't stop building outside of it. अब मैंने जब वहाँ सीखा तो मैंने अपना portfolio पूरा HTML CSS से बनाया.
Okay.
अभी रिसेंट थोड़ा JS पे खेलना था, एक जगह JS डला हुआ है, बाकी मैंने अपने लिए कस्टम एंड पॉइंट्स बनाए नोड में just because मेरे को shortened links चाहिए थे. So you know you play around and you hack around and that's how you learn. And you don't need to have completed every course in the world to start building. Start building and you can do every course otherwise alongside. उसको choose कर लेना यार क्या सीखना है क्या नहीं सीखना. कई चीजें डॉक्स देख के हो जाती है, कई चीज के लिए थोड़ा सीखना पड़ता है, बट बनाते रहो, साथ में लर्निंग हो जाएगी. क्योंकि बनाते रहोगे तो लर्निंग करनी पड़ेगी, राइट? बनाओगे कोई बग फिक्स करना है, यू विल एंड अप प्रैक्टिकली सॉल्विंग इट एंड रियलाइज कि हाँ कल कोई ये चीज ये कॉन्सेप्ट है तो ऐसे सॉल्व होता है ना. दैट्स हाउ यू लर्न. सिर्फ कंटेंट सुन लो या कंटेंट पढ़ लोगे उससे हाथ नहीं जमेगा उस पे.
Yeah, true.
वो चीज याद रखनी पड़ती है.
Yeah. क्योंकि मतलब स्टार्टिंग इन माय फर्स्ट और सेकंड ईयर आई जस्ट वॉच द कंटेंट एंड 2-3 मतलब बना दिया प्रोजेक्ट्स फॉर माय पोर्टफोलियो, देन स्विच ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट टेक स्टैक. फिर ऐसे ही मतलब फिर किसी में इंटरेस्ट नहीं आया. फिर आफ्टर 2 years फिर देन आई रियलाइज कि हाँ व्हाट इज माय इंटरेस्ट. तो फिर मैंने थोड़ा रिसर्च किया अबाउट APM या प्रोडक्ट मैनेजमेंट. तो फिर उस पर मैं थोड़ा रिसर्च किया, ब्लॉग्स पढ़े क्या होता है, क्या रोल्स हैं, एवरीथिंग अबाउट दिस स्टफ्स. एंड फाइनली डिसाइडेड कि हाँ मेरे को इस पाथ में चूज करना है. तो मतलब प्रॉब्लम मतलब कि हाँ यू हैव टू ट्राई इट आउट एवरीथिंग एंड आफ्टर सर्टेन पॉइंट यू रियलाइज कि हाँ व्हाट इज योर स्ट्रेंथ एंड वेयर यू वांट टू वर्क. सो मतलब ट्राई आउट करते ही रहना चाहिए मतलब. दैट्स
yeah absolutely.
Okay. And so what are the other stuffs you do beyond your job or studies to keep yourself motivated or some idea creation? Just for example, I just create some videos on reels or cooking ho gaya, wo sab ho gaya. So for any motivation ya any and in a leisure
I
time,
like
what sort of do?
so anything non job or non work na.
Yeah.
I casually game. I like to play थोड़ा.
Okay.
अच्छा लैपटॉप खरीदा इसीलिए.
Nice.
Like RTX enabled now. Because I wanted to get back to a little gaming. I've always enjoyed games, but lately थोड़ा कम हो गया था. But I wanna start more. So I do a little bit of that. Little bit of mobile photography. I like to click a little, play around, pro mode में खेला, फिर उसके बाद edit किया Snapchat पे. अच्छा लगता है, मजा आता है. It's a light relaxer, right? So I do a little bit of that for me. Twitter Spaces, random community convo started that because I was like यार बोर हो रहे हैं, बातें करते हैं लोगों के साथ, नए लोगों के साथ. That was literally why it started. I had no other reason because I was just like I want to talk to new people and that's why I don't even decide the agenda before. And the moment these calls start, it's totally new, totally fresh, unplanned. जो उस moment पे टॉपिक उठेगा उस पे बात करेंगे. कभी कभी ज्यादा बोलते हैं, कभी कभी ज्यादा सुनते हैं, बट अच्छा जाता है इधर बिकॉज या तो रिलैक्सेशन चिल होते हैं या कुछ नया सीखने को मिल जाता है. So I kind of do that stuff and then joining and playing around at hackathons and all that's always fun. अपनी learning के लिए कुछ के लिए या just to meet people. I do that just to meet people at times. That's like my main thing at hackathons. I just like to meet people. I'll join the hacker hangouts and just chat. I'll try to interact with other mentors because सबसे यार सीखने को बहुत होता है यार, बहुत बहुत सीखने को मिलता है. So I like to do that even outside of my job. Job होना हो मेरे को लगता है कि once in a while इसमें join कर लिया अच्छा रहेगा, है ना. So I keep doing these sort of things.
That's nice. And now the other question ki how to find a community about your interest. For example, when you enter into college, there are lots of communities in the school, in the college, but वो मतलब कभी कभार अच्छे होते हैं, नहीं भी होते, मतलब डिपेंड अपॉन द स्कूल कि कौन से लेवल में है।
तो वो चीज ना
और
हाथ मारे बिना नहीं पता चलता.
ओके
Sometimes you have to take a leap of faith until you grow to a point where you can differentiate and understand. And उसके बाद तो यार पूरी दुनिया खुली है,
या
पूरा इंटरनेट है, किस चीज की कम्युनिटी नहीं है.
ट्रू.
After that it's just a matter of how hard you're willing to search. But हाथ मारना पड़ता है शुरू में. It's a leap of faith. That's all you can do, right? जब नहीं पता तो नहीं पता, ट्राई करो. बुरा हुआ तो at least you know what you want to stay away from. You can find people who are doing the other thing. At least वो factor तो पता लगता है ना. So start में that kind of works out. And start में अच्छा मिल गया तो that's the best case possible.
That's nice. And yeah, so are you interested in reading books or listening podcasts?
Yeah. Honestly, I podcasts से ज़्यादा books. I wish I would read more. पहले ज़्यादा पढ़ता था at one point and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I read a lot of fiction, mainly a lot of thrillers, spy thriller sort of books, like your Lee Child ka Jack Reacher series, the Mitch Rapp series by Vince Flynn. Always enjoyed those. Fair, I'd like some law fiction by John Grisham. That was a big thing for me. But those were sort of books that I thoroughly enjoyed. One of my favorites is The Godfather. That's a really good book, by the way. बहुत लंबी book है, वो बहुत अच्छी book है. Highly recommend. So yeah, reading's been nice. Plus, I like graphic novels. I like DC for sure. Big on Batman. Flash. Yeah. That's another one.
Yeah, I've seen a Twitter image of yours wearing the mask.
I am,
Nice.
so I said the loveliest teammates. Haven't I said that? One of my teammates at appwrite, he has a side business where he 3D prints and sells these on Etsy. And we were talking and he knows how much I like Batman and especially the Arkham games. So he 3D printed the Arkham Knight mask and he had to kind of guess estimates. So he did that based on his own headsets and he sent that to me from the US.
Okay.
What a gem of a person. Yeah.
That's nice.
But that's so good. I don't have the mask with me right now, unfortunately, because I'm in Noida and that's back home in Dehradun.
Okay.
But it's a lovely mask. Love it. Absolutely.
Okay. So I just introduce a rapid fire round from this podcast. So we'll try to continue in the upcoming other podcast. So yeah, एक बार rapid fire खेल लेते हैं. It's about this or that. So you have to choose between this or that, or you can also add your option.
Dangerous है ये.
No, but easy questions. So I hope you enjoy this. Let's get started with the first one. So if you want to work, which mode would you choose? Work from home or work from office?
Hybrid.
Nice. मैं बोला कि work from home बोलोगे, and I will answer hybrid. That's nice. And if you choose between Mac OS or Windows or Linux, so
by Windows. I am very anti-Apple.
But you will prefer Mac Pro.
Mac.
But you will prefer Mac
Pro.
No,
never. Always Windows.
Okay.
I just don't get. I'm not big on Apple.
Okay. Now
what ecosystem? Very closed ecosystem. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fascinated about the Apple products. I wish I will get some products.
Good products. My brother loves them, but it's too closed an ecosystem.
The third part. So if you want to work as a devRel, then which of the following company would you like to work with? Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon. Yeah, any of the FAANG company. Microsoft. That's nice.
That's my tech. Yeah, that's my tech. I love that tech. So makes more sense for me.
I think 1 minute left, so I have 3 to 4 more options.
Karo, jaldi se.
Other one is Twitter or LinkedIn. Which one would you prefer? Twitter or LinkedIn? Twitter. Okay. Then while walking, which one would you prefer? Music or podcasts? Listening podcasts?
Music.
And if you want to order your food, so kahan se order karo? Zomato ya Swiggy?
Zomato,
because 10-minute wala aane wala
Pro bhi le rakha hai.
Nice. I hope कि हाँ Swiggy भी मतलब 5 minute वाला कुछ लिया है.
Like I get what they've done with 10 minutes. It's the same dark store model. It's pretty smart. But even aside from that, since the start I've liked Zomato's UI UX a little more because Swiggy का शुरू में था अच्छा नहीं लगता था. Now it's a little better, but I am just like still on Zomato for that reason.
Yeah, I think recently
वह
भी change भी
It's become better. It's become better than earlier. पहले तो मैं confused होता था, but I still prefer Zomato comfort है. So go to हो जाता है. Backup होता है Swiggy की Zomato पे नहीं मिल रहा तो वहाँ देखेंगे.
Okay. And finally, what would you prefer? Coffee or tea? Yeah.
Coffee. Always.
So yeah, that's it for the rapid round. And now it's the final question. So what are the three advice would from your experience would you like to give to the young student who want to make most out of the college life? So any kind of advice for the young students? Yeah.
Don't be afraid to experiment and get things wrong.
Okay.
Very very important to do that. लोग गलतियों से डरते हैं, मत डरो। शुरू में गलतियां करने का पॉइंट ही यही होता है कि तुम सीखो उससे, ठीक
Okay.
है? डोंट कॉम्प्रोमाइज ऑन योर एथिक्स, एथिकल लिमिट्स मत बीट करना। लोग कहते हैं इट माइट बी अच्छा बुरा, यू डोंट हैव टू डू दैट। तुम्हारे एथिकल स्टैंडर्ड्स कुछ हैं, उनके विद इन काम करो। यू आर गोना स्लीप अ लॉट बेटर एट नाइट एंड just keep learning, building and sharing, and learning and building and sharing, and keep that cycle going. It's a cycle. It's not a single path. हम जो ये roadmaps और ये सब एक single forward journey कहते हैं, it's never that. It's always a spiral. That's how it goes. And उसके लिए you have to revisit the first steps at times, and that's necessary for personal growth. And keep communicating, keep sharing, keep talking about it, because no one else is going to do it for you. It's very necessary to share. That third point is very important, because learn के साथ build and build के साथ learn हो जाता है, share भूल जाते हैं, and
Yeah.
no one's going to brag for you, no one's going to share for you, no one's going to talk for you unless you are doing that. तुम करोगे तो दूसरे लोग भी करेंगे, but you'll have to take that initiative. So keep that cycle going.
Yeah. And obviously join communities, tech communities. Yeah. That's it.
That's going to happen along the way. वो तो
Yeah.
हो जाएगा, लर्निंग करते करते आएगा एक्सपोजर। ज्वाइन भी करना, बट डोंट जस्ट डू इट फॉर द सेक ऑफ इट। लाइक बहुत लोग करते हैं कि हर कम्युनिटी ज्वाइन करना है, उसका फायदा नहीं होता।
हाँ.
चूज व्हाट्स गुड फॉर यू, look at your ethical limits, look at your interests, and accordingly join. There's communities that are massive that I haven't joined. I'm not big in the CNCF and all that space, which are fantastic places, absolute amazing places, but my interest is somewhere else, so I didn't jump on that, right? Nothing to say that वो अच्छा नहीं है, it's just मेरे को अलग चाहिए था. That way I'm able to focus my time on stuff that I want rather than get overwhelmed by the world. So like, you know, you're gonna find stuff along the way, and just make sure कि तुम्हें क्या चाहिए, you don't forget that.
That's nice. And yeah, I hope ki student will get some kind of inspiration from this episode. And yeah, Aditya, thank you so much for joining me in this episode. And
Thank
yeah,
you for having me.
and I will put the LinkedIn or the Twitter handle, so anybody want to reach out to you, then he can reach out to you and clear the doubts. Okay. And yeah, I think that's it. And yeah, we'll see you in the someday about other episode, yeah, from other topics which correlate with the students.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I think and recording मैं stop कर देता हूँ. Wait.